I think that this NFL draft is really, really deep at offensive tackle. First, am I just a short dude that doesn't know what he's talking about, or am I right here?
It is deep as far as the amount of talent you might get from rounds 1 to 3. Is it as good at the top as previous years? No, right? I mean, last year with Panay and Rashawn Slater, a year before that with the top 4 guys, probably not as good there, but the depth you might find after the top 4, they're kind of like a grouping of 4, is pretty good. And you'll find guys right away that can play, but the top is not quite the same as it's been the last couple of years, but that doesn't mean you're not finding guys early in the draft that can be really good NFL players.
It's always interesting to me to see which one of the big uglies steps out and steps in front of little guys like myself, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and whatnot. And this year feels like one of those guys is Alabama offensive tackle Evan Neal, who is featured in Big Boys Club. Yeah. What can you tell me about Evan and his work ethic?
Oh man, Evan's fantastic. Evan was about 400 pounds in high school at IMG, and he has worked all the way. We saw the pretty cool clip of him at the combine, really slimmed down there, right? 337 pounds. He looks great. He's down in Dallas working out with my buddy Duke Manyweather. And dude, he's played everywhere at Alabama. He's played guard, he's played tackle. So he's had to sacrifice kind of moving around the offensive line depending on what talent they have. That's a very good quality to have, to be able to play well at guard, at right tackle, and now at left tackle. And to see him work, man, he's the most skilled pass protector at the top of this draft for offensive linemen. He's very smooth out there, got his good hands. And obviously when you play Alabama, you're playing good competition too, right? I think a lot of the problem with scouting offensive linemen now is that you watch them play and they don't play anyone either that's going to be in the NFL, or their scheme and technique is kind of nothing what they're going to do in the NFL. So it's hard to comp guys when you see certain film. Not with Alabama, right? You're playing Georgia, you're playing Cincinnati, like you're playing teams with excellent defenses week in and week out. And so you're able to watch Evan Neal and be like, okay, well, this is what it will look like in the NFL. Yes, there's things to clean up. He falls off of blocks late and whatnot, but you get to see it. Okay, this translates really well. And I think that's very important when you're drafting him early on, is because he played well in the SEC. He's probably going to play well early on as an offensive tackle as well in the NFL.
One of the things I think is super underrated that you mentioned there, and I want to piggyback on, is the guys he's playing against, right? Like Will Anderson is a dude. Now he's not draft eligible until next year. But when you see that caliber of player, Dallas Turner, you're going to get tested. But my favorite quote from Evan throughout this process is, just don't stick me at center. Like he knows who he is, right? He knows, hey, I can play either guard spot, either tackle spot. Just don't have me snapping the football. But I want to ask, is he your best offensive lineman or your top offensive lineman in this draft?
Yeah, he's my top tackle. I think when I go back to last year a little bit, and I can get very intoxicated. I think a lot of us that evaluate offensive linemen get intoxicated by run blocking, right? And we look at last year with Panay Sewell and with Rashawn Slater, and you watch Panay Sewell's college film and you're like, wow, the run blocking is incredible, right? The explosiveness that which he plays with is fantastic. He overlooked a little bit of the flaws in pass protection. We'll go to Rashawn Slater, who was drafted by the Chargers right below Panay Sewell. You watch his college film, excellent pass protector, right? Like there were no flaws in pass protection. And the run blocking, there were things he had to work on as well. Fast forward to the first NFL season, Slater was better. Panay got better throughout the season, but kind of being that good pass protector really helped him, I think, early on. When you evaluate these offensive linemen in this draft, look at Evan Neal and you look at Ickey from NC State, and Ickey is the best run blocker of any offensive lineman in the draft, but his pass protection is just not as good as Evan Neal. So I lean toward the guy that's a better pass protector, playing some of those better defensive ends. I can teach him, not I, but an offensive line coach can teach him how to finish a little bit better in the run game. You know, Ickey's issue with oversetting guys in college, that's hard to fix early on in your career. And a lot of NFL teams view him as a guard as well. So to me, it's Evan Neal 1. I think Ickey's a close 2 in the tackles. And there's obviously guards and centers who I like as well. But tackle for me, tackle 1 is Evan Neal. And he should be the first tackle off the board, I think.
Say, brother, for the listener, who is Ickey?
Ickey Kwanu from NC State. He's a left tackle. He's not undersized, but the pass protection issues are a little bit concerning just because he oversets, right? So he sets kind of too far. He's too aggressive in his pass sets. And you worry that if it's fast for him in college, pass protection, he just goes so fast, right? Then the NFL, when things ramp up a little bit, he just goes even faster. And he might be a guy that a lot of teams view as a guard which probably pushes him down a tiny bit in the draft if the teams at the top feel that way as well. I know some teams that aren't really in a position to draft him view him as a guard. Most teams don't take guards high unless they're Quentin Nelson, right? Or like Brandon Sheriff. Like, you don't really get those guys.
You mean one of the best of all time?
Yeah.
Like the dude everybody talks about?
Yeah. So, Icky's not quite there as a guard. So, but those are 1 and 2. I mean, I don't really see any team deviating from those two guys. Those are probably the first 2 tackles taken.
Hey man, like, you had me right once you said Evan Neal, and you're putting him in sentences with Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater. But I got to ask, on top of that, is there Rashawn Slater for you in this class? A guy that perhaps the rest of us don't know a whole lot about, or didn't know a lot about until the NFL draft last year, who has absolutely turned into a dude down in Miami?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, the closest comparison, at least pass protection wise, is probably Charles Cross from Mississippi State. They're different players, so they're not quite the one-on-one comparison. But if you look at pass protection wise, if you're looking for someone to protect the passer, that's Charles Cross from Mississippi State. My concern with him, and it's a concern with him, it's a concern with guys drafted previously, it's a concern with other guys in this draft, is these air raid offensive tackles. It's not Charles Cross's fault what offense he played in, right? He didn't sign at Mississippi State to play in this offense with Mike Leach, but there's a long track record of offensive tackles drafted high in the draft out of the air raid offense that are complete flops in the NFL. And Charles Cross is better athletically than Austin Jackson, than Andre Dillard, than some of the Washington State guys of the past. So he profiles better there. He's a much better pass protector. It's got better balance, longer arms. I mean, all those things are good. It's just, again, that transition period has been really tough when you go from an offense where you're throwing the ball. I mean, I think he had 750 pass protection reps this season. That's wild. That's a lot. And again, it's 3-man rush. I went to watch an Alabama game. I wanted to see him against Will Anderson. It never happened because Alabama didn't have to rush Will Anderson in that game, right? Like, you sit back in coverage against those teams. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of a transition period for him in the NFL, just kind of getting used to playing in a much different offense once he gets there. But as far as pass protection wise, he's probably closest to Slater. There's no one, in my opinion. I mean, Slater's tape against Chase Young was really good. I mean, like, I think we overlooked that. I think, I don't know why I should have not done that, but it was really good. And guess what? He was really good in the NFL against Chase Young and everyone else.
Hey man, for those of y'all that don't know, Geoff and I have this running dialogue about the air raid in particular. I, being a short, small, fast guy, really like air raid offenses. And my man Geoff looks at these like, what am I doing here? Standing up? Are these tight ends? What are these guys doing here?
No, it's not. Okay, here's what it is. I have to explain this. Okay, it's one school. I don't like USC doing it. And the reason why is because the air raid offense, you mentioned it, right? Typically it's for teams that don't have the 5-star prospects, right? It's for smaller, quicker guys to get in space, find advantages. USC has 5-star wide receivers. They have Drake London. They don't even running the air raid offense. Now they're done with that air raid offense, right? It's gone. I mean, it's a power raid with Lincoln Riley now, but it's not like that Graham Harrell, just Mike Leach, drop back and throw the ball 70 times a game. So that's my problem with air raid offense. I don't like it at USC. Anywhere else, Tulsa, be my guest. Hawaii, go for it. It's just not at USC. I don't like it.
Don't give my blue bloods an air raid offense, says my man Geoff Schwartz. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.